All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Glenn Frey, his solo career often overshadowed by Don Henley, but I got to tell you, I'm a huge Glenn Frey fan, and I think Glenn Frey deserves more credit for being a very amazing solo artist as well as an architect of the Eagles sound. But Glenn Frey focused a lot on his R&B roots when he went off on his own. And his first album was called No Fun Allowed, and it's still my favorite album by a solo member of the Eagles. I can listen to No Fun Allowed from start to finish. By the way, it was the first album released after the Eagles broke up by a solo member of the Eagles, unless maybe Joe Walsh might have beat Glenn Frey. But between Frey and Henley, Frey struck out on his own first, and then Henley would come along later with his first solo album. But No Fun Allowed, to me, is a great beginning to a solo career that is often overlooked. Let's just be honest. Don Henley did put together some amazing music during the 1980s, but there were meteors shooting off here and there, whether it was Dirty Laundry or The Boys of Summer. Henley liked high-profile collaborations. He liked to bring in the hot talent of the moment, whether that was like a Martha Davis or a Patti Smythe or an Axl Rose or a Bruce Hornsby. It's a pretty long list of celebrities that were hanging out with Don Henley. And yes, Don Henley has an amazing singing voice, but I kind of prefer Glenn Frey's voice. Glenn Frey has a soothing quality to his voice that works well on slower tracks and also works really well on tunes like Heartache Tonight and The Heat Is On. On most of Glenn's solo material, he kind of kept to himself. He wrote a lot of the songs on his own or with people like David Walensky or Jack Temchin, who ends up being, a key songwriting partner throughout Glenn Frey's career. Again, Henley tapped a lot of other folks. One of his biggest songs, The Boys of Summer, ends up being a song that was meant for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Frey was guilty of some of this as well. His biggest chart single, The Heat Is On, was a song that he didn't write. So I think you could say that there were some similarities in their solo careers, but there were some really big differences. I think Glenn Frey put together an album from start to finish that was fairly consistent, whereas Don Henley took a lot of chances. And you could listen to an album where, for instance, The End of the Innocents, it's a pure Bruce Hornsby style song, and Henley's doing lead vocals on it. It's as if Henley took over Bruce Hornsby in The Range for one song and became the lead vocalist. You don't hear that kind of stuff with Glenn Frey. He's more doing his own thing. In fact, Frey sticks pretty much to his R&B roots throughout the decade, and it culminates on an album called Soul Searchin', which was absolutely trashed by critics. But if you go back and listen to it, you're just going to hear some fantastic music that you probably overlooked. Some Kind of Blue, one of my favorite slow tracks ever by anyone, just like That Girl on No Fun Allowed. And these were songs that weren't released as singles, but they had potential to be on the radio, as did a lot of material from that era. Record labels are very unusual, very strange. Oftentimes, they're A&R people. They choose songs that you wouldn't choose as singles. They didn't get input from people before they decided, when you go way back in time, the disc jockey and the audience reacting to the songs, they had far more power than they did as the years went on. And now they have literally no power, as pretty much it's all focus tested. And, maybe there's some internet feedback, if the radio station has a Twitter account, maybe, they get hit up on Twitter after a song plays or something. I don't know how they gauge that these days, but back in those days, it was, wow, the phones are really lighting up. And I think Glenn Frey, if you go and check out his box set, which is quite impressive. I don't know if anybody has ordered that, but it's called Above the Clouds. It came out a few years ago after Glenn passed. And it's a great collection of his work from even before the Eagles up through his solo career. And you really get what Glenn Frey was all about. He is an underrated solo performer for sure. People will talk a lot about what he did in the Eagles, but they won't talk about like Smuggler's Blues or pretty much that first album, which is just amazing from start to finish, and was a lot, on the radio at the time. It was really played because people wanted more of the Eagles. They couldn't believe the Eagles had broken up. And Glenn Frey, he was the first one to really put his toe in the water between Frey and Henley. And people were mildly concerned about Joe Walsh and Don Felder and Tim Schmidt, but they wanted to hear from Henley and Frey. And so Glenn gave everybody their first taste of what he would sound like as a solo artist. And I remember I had the vinyl and I wore it out, and maybe I was one of the only ones. Henley's first album, I Can't Stand Still, is a good album, but again, it lacks the consistency of Frey's first album, and you see that throughout the decade. Henley has these gems on these albums, these really great songs, and then there's a good dose of filler or songs that are, they're almost there, but they're not quite there. You may disagree with me on this because music is very subjective. You may say, well, Frey played it safe, whereas Henley was, trying all kinds of new and different and interesting things. And Henley was reinventing himself on every album, whereas Glenn Frey got progressively more R&B as the decade went on. So that's probably true, but this video is just to kind of highlight the fact that I think Glenn Frey was overshadowed by Don Henley, and I don't know if it's justified. It might be, but in my eyes, I liked both of their work as solo artists, and I tend to gravitate back to Glenn Frey more so because his voice is just more pleasant to me. His delivery, his self-confidence, all of those things contribute to, his great work as a solo artist. And Glenn, at the end of his career, before he passed, he left us this Route 66 thing, which I thought was very interesting, that he was trying to go in a new direction, almost like a lounge singer, and his voice definitely capable for that stuff. I think he was looking at Tony Bennett and thinking to himself, well, that guy, he's still singing, and that's longevity. Why not? Why not try out the American Songbook? I know Rod Stewart did that stuff, and there are other artists. Michael Bolton comes to mind. They go in that direction when they get older because they want to sing good songs. They don't want to try to write songs that might not be good. But Glenn was accused of just, doing music as a hobby during the 80s because he was into acting, if you remember. He had a television show which lasted, I think, one episode or something like that. Obviously, he was on Miami Vice, and that was really cool. I don't think Don Henley tried his hand at acting from what I remember, but Glenn was kind of a Renaissance man. He was a good-looking dude, so he mugged well for the camera back in the day. And that certainly helped maybe get some doors open for him in Hollywood and so forth, although the doors didn't stay open all that long. And really, once the Eagles got back together again, all that stuff just sort of went away. But in any event, missing the great Glenn Frey. Yes, I've done videos talking about how he and Henley had some issues and how he and Don Felder obviously had issues. And it seemed he was a bit of a dictator in the Eagles documentary, but so what? So what? He's still just a great artist, and we need to appreciate his solo material and his work with the Eagles. So that's my video. Thanks for watching. Of course, you may disagree with this. A lot of folks like Don Henley a lot, and I know why. Don Henley is really talented. Or you could be an oddball and say, no, Joe Walsh is better than the two of those guys. So you wouldn't be crazy if you said that, because Joe Walsh is a lot of fun to listen to. You know, especially his early solo work and his music with the James Gang and all that great stuff. But anyway, a lot of talent in the Eagles for sure. Anyway, that's my video again. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.